once we did that, and once we said that's our goal, we found that there is a lot of qualified Hispanics, Asians, Blacks in our ranks that all they needed was a chance. And we gave them the chance, and they're performing outstanding.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Black and Blue Podcast. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is Dale. I'm the host of the Black and Blue Podcast. We've got a lot of crazy things going on in this nation. As you all well know, I'm out here in Southern California. I've got another officer out here from Southern California. He is a 25-year veteran of the LAPD. Everybody help me welcome in Craig Marquez. How you doing, sir?
How you doing? Doing great.
Excellent, excellent. So, man, things are crazy right now. We got the Minnesota thing that maybe we'll touch on, but we definitely got the COVID-19 stuff that is going on. I see your shirt going on there. I like that shirt. What does it say?
It says COVID-19. COVID-19 and obviously the whole pandemic thing. And, if you serve any time in law enforcement in Southern California, you know that there's always partners and everything that are making all kinds of things, whether it's hats, shirts, and, small business owners. So, part of being friends is that, friends support friends, and we definitely want to buy all the gear. They come out with a lot of cool stuff. And American Spartan Apparel is one of my, the owner, Chuck, is one of my friends. And, I'm here to support everybody, and supporting means that, hey, you got to break out your wallet and donate to their children college funds.
Yeah. Nice. So on that, how you guys dealing with the COVID-19 out there in LA?
We obviously, working Rampart, our community, we're the most, where I work is approximately 6 square miles, and which is not a very big division land-wise, but you're looking at 6 square miles where approximately almost 300,000 people live. So it's the most densely populated area in the country next to the Bronx. So we have a lot of people. We have a lot of documented cases. We did the count the other day, and maybe about 2 weeks ago, we had approximately 700 documented cases, which was the largest part of Los Angeles, our neighborhoods that are in our communities. So with that, we've just recently this week had our first case of one of our officers or detectives having a case of COVID-19. And a lot of that is just the precautions that we take, whether it's, it's vigilance, vigilance and everything you do, going out, making sure our cars are wiped down at the beginning of our shift. So wiping down the steering wheels, wiping down the door handles, all these things, washing our hands, wearing our face masks. So a lot of those things are just really basic things. And, and the officers have been doing them. And that's really made the difference. It made all the world a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you and your family's been doing well on that as well, too?
Oh, yes. Obviously with school being out,
right.
My kids have been home, and so we've been limiting our exposure going out. It's modifying our habits a little bit. I'm pretty lucky. I have two great kids that love art and reading and video games and everything else like that. So this has been like an extended summer break.
Exactly. Yeah.
On top of their schoolwork and everything. And it's great. with all the things that they're picking up with the COVID-19 break from school and everything else like that. They've learned a few things. They learned this video meeting thing, which they gave me a crash course on. Everybody gave me a crash course on, and I'm all I'm ready. This is my first one, and I'm
now you're a
I'm
pro.
learning along with him.
Yeah, now you're a pro.
Yes.
All right. So what do you do right now at the LAPD?
Well, I've worked a lot of different specialized units. In 25 years, most of my time has been in specialized units. So I've several years ago, I decided I kind of wanted to come back and kind of end my career right where I started it at, and or at least started the biggest patrol. The biggest part of my patrol experience has been in Rampart Division. And so I kind of wanted to come back to a place where I came home, or I call home, and I came back to the gang unit. So now I'm working as a gang detective in Rampart gangs.
Okay. Yeah, Rampart's got a storied history. We all know about what went down there a few years back. And how are things out there now with the changes that you guys went through in Rampart?
Oh, it's one of the most things. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of. When Ray Perez got arrested, and for those of your listeners that don't know, in the 90s we had an officer who worked our crash unit, Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums, which is our gang unit, and he was, corrupt officer stealing, staged a shooting where a suspect was shot, and they said he had a weapon and he didn't. So that was a big thing. And the evolution that we took after that was amazing. And, any type of change that you come in law enforcement, you can do it, you can do it two ways. Either you can do it militaristic style, where this is going to end, and it's harder to change a culture like that. To change a culture, it has to come organic, and it takes time.
Yeah.
And the things that we've seen, the difference now working gangs to where it was before, we're a much more professional, much more, it's a much better officer that works our gang unit. It's something that's, a lot of it is merit, most of it's merit based. So if you're working gangs, you deserve to work gangs. You're doing good police work. You're professional in what you're doing. You're efficient, and that's the basis of you being accepted. And that's the way it should be. And it opens up, a lot of what you talk about here is minorities in law enforcement. And when you have that, that's something that's just merit based. It opens the doors up for a lot of Blacks, a lot of Hispanics, a lot of Asian officers that probably may not have gotten a chance, back in the old days, but now they're getting their chance now, and it's better for all of us.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, speaking of minorities, what is your background?
So I'm mixed. So I have great grandparents that came from Portugal to Hawaii. And also I have another set of great grandparents that came from the Philippines. So I'm half Portuguese, half Filipino that grew up in Hawaii.
That grew up in Hawaii. Okay.
Yes.
So there's a story there. How'd you make it over to LA?
So growing up in Hawaii, I mean, you're talking about, when growing up, I looked up the population. So in the 80s, the population was approximately 80,000. So you could fit the entire population of Maui, which is the island that I grew up on, in the LA Coliseum, and still have another 10,000 empty seats.
Right.
So needless to say, it was it wasn't a hard life in a sense, that we had a lot of distractions, but opportunities were very hard to come by. If you didn't have a rich family that could afford to send you away to college, your only other chance to get off the island and see someplace else was the military, which was promoted from a young age. Say, hey, listen, if I knew my parents didn't come from money, so that left one available option. And luckily, I had a lot of family members that were in the military, and I had friends that were in the Marines, and so it came really early, like around 14. So my freshman year, I decided that was the route where I was going to go. So all through high school, I knew, at the end of it all, I was going to join the Marines. And at 17, I did, and I left home when I was 17 to join the Marines.
All right. And where were you stationed?
My first duty station was in Panama, and this was right after the war, right after Operation Just Cause, and we got rid of General Manuel Noriega.
Okay.
And after that, I came back to that was what they call a B billet, so it's only a temporary billet. And then I came back to Camp Pendleton, and that's where I was in 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, Kilo Company, and I did the remainder of my enlistment there. And comes 1995. We had 1994 was the crime bill. For those of us who were around, we remember the 1994 crime bill that they had, and they were hiring thousands of officers, and 1,000 in Los Angeles. And I was looking at being unemployed. So right. I was like, I like my chances much better being 1 in 1,000 than, going back to Maui and being maybe 1 of 25. We really didn't know. They really couldn't tell me at the end, like how much they were hiring or give me a good picture of it. And Los Angeles had this really robust plan on hiring over 1,000 officers and really bulking up their ranks. And I really liked what they had to say. And growing up in Hawaii, and your first introduction to law enforcement, most of us, has been through television series. And growing up, there was no shortage. You had Adam 12, you had Hawaii 5-0 if you're in Hawaii, but you also had a lot of different ones. You had SWAT, you had the Rookies. And so it was like one of these things where you sit there and, as a kid, and it's kind of funny how it ended, it's like you grow up with all these images of TJ Hooker and Hunter and Los Angeles. And you never think in a million years, living in an island with only 85,000 people, that you're ever going to do. And, your dream is, hey, maybe one day I'll come back and be a cop in Hawaii. You never thought that you actually go out and be part of the quote unquote, the big city. Right. And that opportunity came, and I looked at going back home, and I said, this is the dream. This is the dream. For those of us who came into law enforcement, I looked at LAPD, and I said, you only get one shot. And I didn't really know, and it was a pretty scary thing where, hey, I'm going to be living now in California full time in Los Angeles, and so there was a lot of moving parts. But it's like you only get your one shot, and you took it. 25 years later, I'm still here.
All right. And is all your family still back there in Hawaii?
Yeah, all my family's back in Hawaii. Obviously, it's not didn't really go over too well. Obviously, when they see you go away, join the Marine Corps. Joining the Marine Corps wasn't popular in my family. Obviously, with Desert Storm and Panama being like back to back, joining the military at that time was a real scary proposition for parents, as it is now with, during just recent times with Afghanistan and Iraq being back to back. Having a kid go off into the military during uncertain times is not popular. So it wasn't a really popular decision when I made the decision then. And then, 4 years later, I come back and said, hey, I'm going to stay in Los Angeles, or I'm going to move to Los Angeles and join the LAPD. That went over even worse. So it was it's a hard thing when you're telling your family that, hey, you're not coming home, and you're going to sit there. And I know now, I part of my career, I worked Hollywood, and we would see kids come out to Hollywood to chase their dreams to be actors and musicians and everything else like that. And then if they're victims of crime, you have a chance to talk to their parents, and their parents from the Midwest and from Hawaii, from all these different places. And you hear it in their voice, and you're like, okay, now I understand, what my parents went through at that time.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And you ever get back and visit every now and then?
Oh yeah, I try to go. Well, I try to go back once a year. Obviously, this year has been really hard
Oh,
with the
sure. Yeah.
coronavirus, and so hopefully they can kind of resolve that. So maybe we can take a trip back home, visit family. I try to go back. It's a little bit easier now with my kids a little bit older, so traveling with little kids was challenging, and that
Right.
was that's been a challenge. But
Yep. Been
now
there,
now
done
it's
that.
fine. Yeah.
Been there, done that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
5 hours in the plane with a screaming 2-year-old is
No, no,
yeah,
no, sir. No, sir.
yeah.
So, you mentioned that, you didn't want to go back home. And, me, like, and probably like a lot of the audience here is thinking, but man, that's Hawaii, man. I guess, grass is always greener on the other side, huh?
I think one of the things that came out of that experience, and I think you working in different agencies, you could probably testify to this too. And now that I have a daughter that's older, and then with different young people that I come in contact with, I always come out and say, life is about hard decisions. Life is about hard decisions, and you're going to have to make some really hard decisions, and it's not going to be the easiest one. And and so the hard decisions are going to be, you're going to have to move away from home sometimes, or maybe you don't live close to a relative, or maybe you don't, and or maybe it's maybe it's an assignment change, a career change. There are going to be things constantly throughout life that you are going to have to make those hard decisions, and you're going to have to stick to it. And I love Hawaii. There's nobody that loves Hawaii more than I do. But I also knew that if I was ever going to go ahead and get these opportunities, opportunities don't come along too often. So when a good opportunity comes by, you got to jump on it.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt. No doubt. So, speaking of hard decisions, you work in the gang unit. How long you been working at?
Off and on, what we worked. I worked our special problems unit as in patrol down in Rampart, and as a gang detective. It's a little bit different as a gang detective, obviously, because I don't have a gang. Normally gang officers have gangs that are assigned to them. So your job is to know everything about those gangs that are assigned to you. So as a gang detective, I little bit over a year, so a year and a half. I've been working gang detectives now. I'm coming from gang and narcotics division, and I've done that for a little bit, around 4 years. So I'm lucky. I've been out of a uniform and out of a suit for quite some time.
Yeah.
Before that, I worked commercial crimes. So luckily, last 10 years, it's been in specialized units in blue jeans and t-shirts and everything else like that, and not
Yeah.
shaving
Hard
and
life. Hard life,
yeah,
huh?
it's a
Yeah.
hard life. It's a hard life. It's one that
Yeah.
in our gang unit, I have to wear button-up shirts, and I have to shave and cut my hair. So
Oh, okay.
sacrifices. But altogether, it's been specialized units and gangs or narcotics. It's been for about 5 years.
Yeah. How's the activity in East LA right now, or Rampart?
Oh, we have East LA and Rampart is pretty close. It's part of Central Bureau. So I live in East LA and work in Rampart. So it really helps with the commute. So Rampart, with coronavirus, crime has gone down maybe altogether about 30% across the board. Gang crime, again, you're looking at, significant drops in like aggravated assaults and robberies. You're looking 30 in some cases. In some weeks we're going through another extraction period with statistics. So you're looking at maybe 70% in some crimes. Rapes down considerable. So violent crime has taken. It was already downtrending, and so it's already going. It's continuing in that. We've seen a lot more in coronavirus as people come out of quarantine and the stay-at-home orders and everything. I think we're going to we're probably going to see an uptick in crime. We're coming to the summer months.
Yep.
But for those of us who did law enforcement in the 90s, this is pretty good. This is pretty,
things are a little different there. Yeah.
It is. And you hit on it, the difference between Rampart maybe in the 90s when we had, the whole Ray Perez scandal and everything, it's different. And you can attest to this, working the streets it's a lot different now. It's a lot different now. We have a different officer that's more equipped to handle life in law enforcement now. But what we have now is, I remember in Rampart when we had over 100, in 6 miles, we had over 100 homicides a year.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I remember it was right after 2000, like right around 2000, maybe 2001, 2002. And I remember how happy we were. We had like 98 homicides in 1 year.
Didn't break 100. You were happy, huh?
Yeah. And
Wow.
the celebration, the Chiefs were showing up, telling us what a great job we were doing. And this has been the first time in like over a decade that we had less than 100 homicides. And, it's nothing near that. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of the programs that we have and the effort that we look at now. It's the type of policing that we do now has a big role in what we see with the reduction of crime. We've kind of gone away from the model of let's throw everybody in jail, let's break doors, let's and that's working gangs. You've kind of been on the forefront of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more inclusive. So bringing in our stakeholders, bringing in our partners, bringing them in with our gang counselors, our civilian partners, and our vendors that are coming in to help through the grid program. Those are the ones that we're bringing in to help us, because you're not going to arrest your way out of a gang problem. You're just not.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of, you're doing a lot of work in the minority communities, and you're going to have to listen and adopt to roles that maybe you sit there and saying, well, that's really, that's not your idea of what a gang cop or what a gang detective should be, but you're going to have to take those roles because it's for the greater good. It's for the greater good. It's for, you look at all the things, all the programs that we're doing. We look at the officers that are out there. We have a great program in Watts, which is the Watts Rams, which is a Pop Warner football team.
Heard of them before, yeah.
Yeah, it's Pop Warner football team, and the coaches are all police officers. And, coming up through the 90s, most officers would have turned around and say, why are we going into that? We're here, we're chasing bad guys and doing that. Why are we coaching Pop Warner football? And I think in 2020, what we see is those efforts make it easier when we put on a uniform.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we do, and I don't care, and I tell this to younger officers, a lot of the stuff that you do now on your off time, make it easier for you to be a police officer in uniform. You look at how many officers do you know take jujitsu? How many officers do you know CrossFit? You're not doing those activities with other police officers. But most of the people that you're doing those activities with are going to be people in the community. And you're going to be talking about, what you do and what better opportunity you have to promote our profession and also give them insight as to what they see on television than those opportunities.
Right. Definitely. So do you do stuff like that yourself? Are you out there taking, Pop Warner football or coaching anything like that? Or are you any programs?
I've always been pretty active throughout my career. I belong to the Elks Lodge. I've also been, I've been really active in my kids' school. At one time I was the PTA president. I was the vice president. As a guy. So taking on different roles as a dad, and we can we could talk all day about, the roles that fathers and men have in our inner cities and in our families' lives, but also in communities. So one of the things as a police officer, I saw how, you know, how a lot of kids growing up today, one of the big things that I see with taking kids into custody, a lot of them are growing up without dads and are getting into problems without dads. So I took it amongst myself. Hey, I'm going to play a bigger role as a dad. So I was the vice president of the school board. Um, uh, I was active in the church. Uh, I did a lot of things. As later on, I became a single dad and was raising my kids full time. I've kind of taken a break from a lot of my civic organizations and everything, but I still play a role in that. Support a lot of different functions in the police station, and a lot of those things are out there in the community, and I'm a big supporter of it, and looking forward as my son gets out of high school, looking forward to that part of it as well, getting back and kind of into things and doing a lot more things in the community that I believe in. I believe
Mhm.
strongly.
Yeah, yeah. So, we talked off air about, the stuff that's going on in Minnesota right now with the unrest, and we talked about, tactics and all that type of stuff. You in LA, you guys are dealing with some of that unrest right now. How you guys holding up with that?
We're holding up uh, the benefit, or I should say, the benefit and downfall, the strength. Sometimes your strength is also your biggest weakness. The strength of our organization is that we've seen a lot of these things happen, whether it's a Laker championship, whether it's a controversy or whatever. So we've had the '92 riots. We've had a lot of different things. We had the DNC in 2000, which was a lot of a week of nonstop protest
Oh
and
yeah.
and a lot of them getting really violent. Um, so I think what happens is, for me in 25 years, I can look at that and say, well, it's been a really bad 2 days, but it wasn't like 2000 during the DNC where they really trashed the place, or it wasn't that first night, that first Kobe Shaq championship where they really destroyed Los
Right. Yeah, I remember
Angeles.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah, you
remember that.
remember
Yeah,
that? Yeah,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
that was and those were pretty scary times. You know what I mean? And being a young officer and going through that. So going through these last 2 nights, you're able to look at it and kind of put it in context. So it's not as bad as those times. I think it's important. If you have time on, if you've seen the DNC, if you've seen those Laker riots, if you've seen any of those things, that any of those other controversial times, then you need to be in the ears of your young officers, because this is the first time that they've ever been, and they're excited. They're angry, to see the destruction that's on, and that's totally understandable. But you can be upset, but you still have a job to do,
Yeah.
and we need to make sure that our younger officers are out there, and they did a really great job. I couldn't be prouder of. I mean, when I'm sitting there, unfortunately, they didn't pull my number, and any cop worth his grain of salt is looking on TV, and if you're not part of that, you're sitting there going, I wish I was there. I wish I was part of it. Uh, Only because that's what's in your blood.
Hmm.
And I looked at everybody last night, and man, I couldn't be prouder of any group of people. They really did a great job. It never goes off perfect. There's things that you sit there and think, hey, we could do something better. We could do this better. But just the quality of the people, you know, uh, letting people have their say, letting them have their First Amendment, rights, but also when it came time that things were getting out of hand, they came out and did a great job.
Yeah, definitely. I remember, you and I talked off air about, the incident that spurred it all with George Floyd. And, I won't get into much about that, but, what were your thoughts on, accountability of officers that see something like that? What is your responsibility for our audience to, to stop something like that? Because, we hear that all the time. Why don't good cops speak out?
Well, yes, and I think that's the one thing about George Floyd that I think that we all can take away from it is that, you have cops in the street sitting there saying, hey, this is wrong. And I get it. You know what? We all work with that person who has that big personality or has that dominant personality, that alpha. And it's hard to go up and tell that person, hey, that this is this is a better way. I don't. I think sometimes, you know what? I think it was when coming up. I heard it best from a veteran cop who said to me, he goes, "It's not about being right or wrong. Is what you're doing the safest thing out there." And that's really what you have to do. So it's not about, hey, is this the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? This is about the safest thing to do. So if you apply it to these officers, is what you're doing the safest thing, safest for your partner, but also safe for the actual person that you're trying to take in custody.
Right.
And that's what you're beholden to. So you would sit there and command and control. We use that a lot in Los Angeles Police Department. Getting there on the scene, somebody needs to take control. So if you're an officer and it doesn't matter how much time on you have, if no one's taking control, then you as a leader need to take control of that scenario and get people where they need to get, but also make sure that everything is taken care of, including that person that you're trying to take in custody, making sure that person survived. It does come up from time to time, but you never want to have it happen to you.
Yeah, definitely. So what changes have you seen on your time on from the day you started up until today, as far as recruitment, as far as the sort of officer that you're getting now? I know across the board, we're all having problems recruiting. What sort of changes have you seen?
Oh, the recruiting thing is, I'm glad you brought that up. Recruiting, we're still recruiting. One of the big things, I've talked to recruitment this week and asking them all the stuff with COVID-19, what are the things? So you can now apply online. You can do that application online. Everything will be done online. Your interview will be just like how we're doing it now, which is really out of the box thinking, but at least it gets through our hiring process. So I think for those of you who are watching this and are interested in a career in law enforcement, know that just because we have COVID-19, you can still apply. You will still go through the process, and it isn't until the end part. And what we've done is we've moved the physical agilities test and the polygraph test further back in your process, so you can get a lot more of that stuff done online and through video conferences just like this.
Yeah.
But the quality of people that we see, amazing. You know what? When we all came on, we always used to hear older guys say, they're the guys that are coming out through the academy, they're cocky, or they're this or they're that, or they're that. With 25 years on, I gotta say that the people that are coming out of the academy, hey, they're the finest in America. They really are, and I couldn't be. I think we're really getting people that are really, they're great multitaskers.
Good word. Good description. Yeah, multitaskers.
Yes. Yeah, they can multitask a lot better than we could. I think, like my generation, it was more of a black and white gray area, resistant to change. And the ones that are coming out, I mean, they can change on a dime. I mean, it's, if you turn around, change a policy, change a procedure, change this, change technology. They're just so flexible. So we come from a profession that can be rigid sometimes and could be resistant to change. And that group, amazing. You came on, and so did I. We came on in a age of no body cameras.
Yeah.
Body cameras is a game changer, because no one likes to be filmed all the time, which is what body cameras basically do. So,
right.
there is that changes, that changes, a lot. Not so much as in your performance. And that's another thing, once body camera, you thought you would have all this. No, body camera just verified what you knew all along, that we have a lot of great police officers that do great police work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Did rank and file have to be kind of sold on it? Because I can imagine when they first came on, everyone's like, "No, I don't want to wear these things and be recorded 24/7." But the new cats coming on, it is what it is. They don't know any different. But people that were there before, what was that like?
Just like how you said, I mean, for those of us who came up through the ranks without it, we were really resistant change. We weren't so much against body cameras as to what it is that you do with the information. And those are two things. One is, if you sit there and one, are you recording me when I'm going to the bathroom? Number two, we talk about things, and a lot of times we talk it in jest. If you get if you get a copy of my conversation that I say in jest, and you take it out of context, what are the penalties on that? I think that was a valid concern. And our Protective League, which is our union, did a really good job beforehand getting in front of it and kind of mitigating a lot of those concerns, and also addressing some of those concerns. But also, what a lot of people don't realize is that with body cameras, we hear a lot of the advocates and a lot of the social justice advocates coming out and saying, well, we want body cameras and we want to see everything. We also had to balance that with other citizens.
Right.
If you get pulled over for drunk driving, you did a criminal act, but that might not make you a bad person. And so your neighbor doesn't get a chance, or shouldn't get a chance, to see you at your worst. If you're having a fight or an argument with your wife, your neighbor shouldn't call and be able to go on a website to see what you're arguing about. So if an officer goes to see there, and you see an officer going to your neighbor's house, your neighbor shouldn't be able to go on the LAPD website and see, what's going on next door. Let me go and find out, just because you want to be a nosy neighbor, versus you have some kind of concern with law enforcement. So a lot of that is protecting the citizens too, because once, we heard everybody that they wanted body cameras and they wanted to see everything, but we also had to protect the people that we serve as well. Does your employer get to see, like, if you have an employee that was arrested, do they get to go into our database and see what it is that you got arrested about? Do you have a right to privacy from that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's really a need to know, not a want to know, desire to know type of thing. Do you have a right to know? Do you have a need to know it? Then put in the request and we can provide that for you. I remember when audio recorders came in at my agency, a lot of us were resistant to that. But those things saved me a few times when complaints, and the watch commander will listen to it and say, no, that didn't quite happen the way that you're describing. And then when the complainant comes in and they look or listen to it too, they want to turn around and leave because it didn't happen the way that they said it. So those things can save you too, on the officer's end too.
It's absolutely correct. And, I had a case this week where, you had somebody who said, this is how this incident unfolded. And then I went into the officer's body worn video, and it was totally contradicting what that person said. I think as body worn went on, we saw the benefits, and there is an extreme benefit, just like how you said, where people have come in and said Officer X did A, B, and C. And then when you go through the body worn, it shows something totally different. And it exonerates that officer. I think I think a lot of people at the beginning, when you talk about officers and their resistance to change, they were just resistant to change.
Yeah.
But when it really rolled out, and I I never thought I'd see the day where I'd be a big advocate for body worn video because of all the doubts that you had before. But when you actually put it down in the way it's practiced, you know, I tell agencies, I mean, you'd be a fool not to go in that direction. It really saves officers. We see it with critical incidents when we looked at officer involved shootings, and that's really saved us. You know, there's a lot of incidents that happen that people have taken because people have video cameras and they're videotaping.
Oh yeah.
And they'll sell it and they'll say, hey, this, and they'll run away with a narrative. And I can think of 2 or 3 incidents right offhand that once you saw the body worn, it really shows a different angle. And really, you know, we were looking at some riots ourselves. We're looking at a lot of these controversial incidents that we see people rioting over. And once you release the body worn video, people have said, wait a minute, there's more to this story.
Yeah,
and
no
it
doubt.
saved it.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, because everyone out in the public's got, you know, a camera accessible in their pocket. So, you know, why shouldn't the departments? So, you know, to release the whole story, because
Release
usually,
the whole story.
yeah, because usually on the public ones, those are, you know, started, you know, who knows when, 5 minutes after an incident started, so you don't capture what happened before, what started it, the whole thing. So, yeah, if an officer has a body worn, yeah, it hopefully it shows the whole thing.
And what I like about our department is that we kind of got on the forefront of this, where we would release the body worn, and also we would have someone from our agency that would sit there, give you the highlights of it, so they can and tell you what it is that you're seeing, explaining like, hey, we recovered a gun. This is a picture of the gun. This is what it is, and so you're not just getting raw footage, because I think that's a problem too. This is the raw footage, but we're going to sit there and we're going to give you the whole picture. These are our policies towards use of force, shootings, things like that. This is the process that we go through. These are the reviews, whether it's a district attorney review, a use of force review board. This is the process. And so somebody can not just see the video in its raw form, but they also get context, and they also get what our policies and procedures is on that specific incident.
Yeah, I've seen a ton of those. For our audience, if you want to see those, you can just pull them up off of YouTube. Sometimes our watch commanders will run through those in briefing, and we'll go through it and, you know, talk about situations, pro and cons, and all that type of stuff for training. And you know, it's good stuff. It's usually narrated, like you said, by, you know, either a captain or somebody, and they give you the whole spiel, you know, of what went down, policies and procedures. Context, you know, they give you the dispatch 911 calls, all that type of stuff. So it's real good stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it also brings out, you know, we talk about, part of the big, you know, recruitment is we're going into communities that, you know, we've always gone out and reached out a hand to our minority communities to bring them in. And I think that's the difference between maybe 1995 and 2020, is that now LA is one of the few departments, at least a big department, that it's a minority, what they call a minority majority. And for those of your viewers that don't know what it is, it's basically the majority of the people that you see on the Los Angeles Police Department are minorities. So
really, how long has that been?
And we got it like right around, Bill Bratton, when he became police chief. That was a big focus of his, that he wanted a minority majority. And that's the first time I ever heard it. I was like, what is that? And to where the majority of the people in your ranks are going to be women or minorities. And so you're seeing record numbers of women on the job now in LAPD. You're seeing, if you look at the command staff structure, you're seeing a lot of African Americans. You're seeing at the highest ranks, at the highest tops. I mean, you're looking at Hispanics and blacks and Asians in the command staff levels that you haven't seen. And it's a process. It's about putting people in the right places. It's about it's about opening doors for people that
exactly.
maybe that don't come from your background, that maybe don't come from, where you're at. And I think, but it takes an organization to sit there and saying, that's my goal. My goal is to open the doors and really put a stamp on it,
Mm-hmm.
saying this is what it is. We're looking. And I think what we found, well, we always knew this to be the case. But I think what we did was we really put it in action, is that, you know what, once we did that, and once we said that's our goal, we found that there is a lot of qualified Hispanics, Asians, blacks in our ranks, that all they needed was a chance.
Yeah.
And we gave them the chance, and they're performing outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And to lend different points of view, different perspectives, to command decisions, to have those different people in those positions. Yeah, that definitely lends to it. Definitely.
That's really what it is. And we talk about, all the different experiences and everything else like that, and everybody has a different experience. And when you bring in and you have a diverse group of people, you have all these different experiences, and they all come with different. And here's the thing, here's the kicker about it, though: you have to listen.
You gotta
And
listen.
that's what, that's what we hear over and over again. It is not about, well, this is right or this is wrong, or it is, people come from different parts, and you're policing a city that's very diverse. And you can't go into people's communities, and a lot of these communities, and say, okay, this is the way it should be, because people don't believe you're listening. And people, you're their police department. And so you need to listen to what their concerns are, because uh, that's the most effective way of policing. If the people believe that you're reflective of them, then it prevents them from burning your city down when there's controversy, which is what we see in Minneapolis. One of the big things I've talked about in other forums is, part of the problem in Minneapolis is, I don't live there, but it just looks from the outside in that you didn't have a really strong relationship with your black community.
Yeah.
And when you have something like this, and you don't have a strong relationship with that community that's affected, then you see riots. You see riots. We've had controversy in LAPD. We're not without it.
Of course.
But the difference then and now is, in 2020, we do a really good job reaching out. And if there's any type of controversy, the first person we're talking with our stakeholders, we're talking with their community members, whether it's in the churches, whether it's in community organizations, and we're on the phone with them, ASAP, letting them know that, hey, this is happening, and let's get together so that we can get a hold of this before it gets out of hand.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. That part right there, that's some good stuff. What's some challenges that you can see for your department and you in general, and specifically in the future? Specific challenges towards the community, specific challenges towards technology, specific challenges in recruitment. What do you think is a big challenge for you guys?
I think the biggest challenge has been, maybe within the last 10 years or so, has been whoever's leading your organization has to have a really good handle on social media. I think social media has been kind of like the game changer in our profession, and there's good and there's bad for it. So
No doubt.
you have to be transparent. There's no longer a day, we talk about this blue curtain, or this code of silence, or anything else like that. Social media has destroyed all of that. I joke now that in 2020, being employed by a police department is sort of like a game of high school. everybody knows your gossip. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything in a vacuum, not in this day and age. So you have to be the type of leader that gets a good handle on that. Because if we live in a big police department, but the difference between 2020, as in maybe 1985 or 1995, is that if you are somewhat this type of person, or if you get a reputation, say in a place like West Valley, well, by the afternoon, the people in Harbor Division are going to know about you, or just word of mouth. So leadership has to change, and I think we're changing. We're getting more. We're getting more people as we diversify. We're getting more. We're seeing it at the top, and even all the way throughout the ranks, that we have a better handle on at least the social media part.
No doubt.
We talked about it now with the challenges. I think one of the big challenges is going out into our minority communities. It's going to have to be. It's never going to be something that we're going to sit there and say, well, okay, we've gotten it. We're at this perfect place. No, you're going to have. It's going to have to be a consistent thing. You're going to have to go back into a lot of our communities, whether it's East Los Angeles, whether it's Watts, South Central, and go and recruit people in those communities and foster programs, whether it's through our Explorer program, whether it's through our CAPS program, and going out into our military bases and finding talent there and recruiting them into your organization. Because like you said, different viewpoints, different experiences make your organization better. And I think that's that's going to be a continuous challenge, because it's hard coming up through a minority community, maybe looking at it from the outside in and saying, hey, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
If you think that's, through that maybe you're not going to get an opportunity, or maybe if you think that organization is not, is not someplace that's open to you, then you're not going to join that. You're going to go find another career, or you're going to find an organization that, that you think, as a young Black man or young Black woman that's going to give you an opportunity, or is going to be open to you and your thoughts and your views. I go, that's what we want to make here.
Right.
And that has to happen on an everyday basis, not something that's an occasional thing.
So LAPD is a pretty large organization, and we talked about how diverse it is. Do you know if there's a large contingent of Hawaiians, or you have Filipino? You said Filipinos on the department.
Well, part of my role here now on LAPD is I'm a vice president of LEAP, the Law Enforcement Association of Asian Pacifics, which is one of the largest Asian police officers association in the country. Very proud of it, and our job is to promote training and opportunities, and to advocate for our members, opportunities for Asian Americans in law enforcement in general, but also on the LAPD. I was actually pretty surprised when I came on that there is a large contingency of Hawaiians and Hawaiian born and raised officers that are on this department, and it's through our efforts to go out and find the best and the brightest, and that's something that we have, and it's actually a pretty neat community. We have a lot of Hawaiians, a lot of Samoans, a lot of Tongans on the department, and we do have a lot of communities. We have a large Filipino community in the LA area, in Carson, in Eagle Rock. We have a historic Filipino town in Rampart Division, and it's great to see. We have a Koreatown and all these things, and all these places and enclaves from Asian Americans and Hawaiians are. I'm actually pretty surprised on coming from such a small place that we have a lot of Hawaiians on this job and doing rather well.
Yeah, that's cool. That's real cool. So we have to see you in a grass skirt one of these days, brother.
You're probably going to be waiting for a little while longer than, not to say that I look bad in a grass skirt, but
Yeah. So if you and The Rock were standing next to each other, we wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Right?
Identical twins.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing. You hit it on an ongoing joke. It's amazing because me and The Rock are actually around the same age, and he went to a rival high school on Oahu.
Okay.
And I actually have friends that actually went to high school with him and grew up. The Rock, if you know his history, his dad, Rocky Johnson, was a famous wrestler as well. And he wrestled for a long part of his career in Hawaii. And The Rock's mom is Samoan, and his grandmother was the promoter in Hawaii. They're one of the big wrestling promoters in Hawaii. So my first wrestling card that I went out and saw was Rocky Johnson. So The Rock's dad was on the first card and was in the main event of the first wrestling matches that I saw as a kid growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you play any sports growing up?
You know what? I went to school out of my district, or out of district, which is I went to a school which was kind of far away from my home school, so that logistically playing team sports was kind of a challenge. And then also, it just I kind of gravitated towards individual sports. Wrestling. Obviously, grew up as a wrestling fan, watching The Rock and his dad, Rock's dad, and Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And then we also had a lot of guys that, growing up in Hawaii, King Curtis Alkea, which was his kids went to school with me. So it was kind of like the thing in Hawaii that you grew up and you wanted always to be a wrestler and everything else. So I kind of gravitated towards wrestling and boxing and a lot of those individual sports. So I was blessed and I grew up in an environment where team sports, it was big, but we also had a big contingent or a big thing where, and it's kind of morphed into what you see now, where you see in MMA, you see a lot of MMA fighters coming out of Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
BJ Penn obviously is the biggest one, and you see a whole bunch of them. And jiu-jitsu is big in Hawaii, and I have tons of friends. And most of my friends who are on the police department back home, all of them practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it's like a big thing. And I think I'm the only one that doesn't.
Yeah, but you can handle yourself, so yeah.
I can handle myself. I'm getting up there in age, so jiu-jitsu is one of those things where you kind of need a healthy back and healthy knees.
Yeah, this is true.
I'll stick to CrossFit. and destroy my body that way.
There you go. So you saying you're getting up there in age. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
You know what? Obviously, I have 2 years or going towards my second year in the gang unit. And hopefully it's I kind of find my niche. I kind of found my niche. I think it's more, where I see myself more is staying at Rampart unless there's something that really knocks my socks off, and I don't know what it is, but that's really where I wanted to end up. And man, I can't ask for a better job. I love all the people that I work with. I work with some of the best and the brightest people on LAPD. It's put me back in a patrol division, which is something that I really like. It's good for an old cop to be around young cops.
Yeah.
I think it's dangerous for old cops to be around other old cops, because what you wind up having is there's a lot of cynicism and a lot of everything's BS. You can't.
Yep.
You've been on. I once got to explain to me is that there's a chemical change in a cop's brain that happens after the third year, and where he can't say a single sentence without putting BS and it's where everything's BS. This is BS and that's BS. So I think that's a lot. It's true. Being around young guys that are just coming on and just starting out has been really good for my career and also good for my soul.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we come on and as we go along, and it's good to see people. I mean, that all they want to do is do police work, and they'll go hungry. They'll do it in the, they'll do police work in the rain, and they do all these things that that young 20-year-old cops like doing, and it's good for you.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to raise your game, to take more of a teacher role, but also it teaches you to to talk positive.
Right.
To talk positive. You don't want to be the old guy in the back that has a wise answer for everything and it's always doom and gloom. So while those thoughts definitely come into your mind, I'm a big believer that you shouldn't be bringing a lot of those things in. You can say it every once in a while, but the vast majority of what needs to come out of your mouth with somebody with 25 years on needs to be positive, needs to be, you can't be the poison in the well.
No doubt.
Be in those ears of those young cops and let them know that, hey, you're doing a great job.
Yeah. So
you're the right cop.
Yeah. I think we got a notification there. Kind of locked up. Run out of battery. Lost you there. You there, brother? There we go. We're back.
Okay, we're back.
We're back. Yeah. I'll edit all that out. Yeah.
Oh, I think I got my Amazon package.
Oh, okay. Anything good? You get anything good?
Oh, I know. You know what? I'm waiting for my chest plate. You know what? I did for those of you who CrossFit, you do the Murph, the big workout and everything where you do like 1,000 jumping jacks and squats and everything else like that. And you're supposed to be doing it with a weighted vest. Well, fat guy like me, I got a weighted vest built in. So I was like, I don't need any of that stuff.
All right. So, we're good. So, in the next 5 years or so, you still see yourself working? You're not going to pull the cord and call it a career, huh?
Well, I mean, I'm 3 years away from retirement age. So,
I think we lost you again.
Other than that, I don't see. I really don't see. I see myself retiring. I don't see myself being inactive.
Yeah.
So whether it's going into something, there's still a lot of things that I really want to do. I mean, you mentioned it that you're going, you're continuing your education. That's something that's definitely great. I think that's something on my bucket list, to follow up and get on that and maybe do some teaching and
there you go.
Do that. Yeah.
There you go.
So
yeah. All right. Well, I wish you lots of luck.
Maybe
man.
write a book.
Yeah. There you
maybe
go.
Write a book.
You got
make a movie.
I'm sure you got a lot of stories over there after 25 years in LA. So
yeah, I'll get the Rock to play me.
Yeah, or at least you could be a stunt double.
They always ask me who's going to play me in my movie. I'm sitting there like, hey, they're like, Craig, you got to go there, and I was like, well, if the Rock, I'll see how Denzel looks in 4 or 5 years to see if he wants to play another cop.
Yeah. Well, you got a little bit more hair than The Rock does, so yeah,
that's it.
You have to use a hair pieces up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. I hope you stay safe out there. Wash the hands, wear the mask, and all this craziness.
You too.
All this craziness out on the street. Before I let you go, though, brother, I like to play this game with my guests. So sit tight.
All right.
And
okay.
And we will get you set up here. So this game here, I like to call it, it's called
Black or blue, 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 black or blue. Come on.
All right, so this game is called Black or Blue, Black or Blue, and it's real simple. Your category today is called That's Comical. That's Comical. Comic book superheroes. I hope you know your MCU, your Marvel, your DC, and all that.
I grew up a comic book kid.
Okay, all right. Well, this
I'm
should
ready.
This should
I'm
be
ready.
easy
Hey,
for you.
I'm ready for this
All
one.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna name a character, and you tell me if a main color of their costume is black or blue. Black or blue. That's real simple, right? All right. So you ready?
Right.
This is a softball. Your first one here. Catwoman.
Black.
Definitely. There's Catwoman. If you missed that one, had to take your comic card.
Exactly.
But this one might be a little harder for you. Here's this one. North Star.
Whew. North Star.
I couldn't give you all softballs.
Yo, I know. I'm going to say blue.
You would be wrong. North Star.
No. Oh.
Yeah, you ever seen that dude before?
No,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there. Is he a DC character?
He is Marvel. He was part of Alpha
Marvel
Flight.
character.
I'm a comic nerd, so I know all these things, but maybe you don't. Well, let's get you next one. This should be a softball. Wonder Woman.
Blue.
Definitely blue.
Yes.
And blue, she definitely is. I remember the old TV show. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
With Linda Carter.
Yeah.
With Linda Carter.
I used to love that. Yeah. Gave a young boy. Move on. Your next one.
Yes.
Your next one here, Doctor Strange.
Oh, blue.
Definitely blue. All right. Yeah, he's got some movies going on. Your next one, Nova. I
know the
obscure
character. I'm trying to think of his. I'm going to say black.
You'd be wrong. It's blue.
Oh.
Yeah, they're
They're
gonna actually make a movie with he's part of a whole, like the Marine Corps. It's called the Nova Corps. So Nova.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they take characters from people from different planets to be in this corps, kind of like the Green Lantern Corps, except this is the Marvel version called the Nova Corps. All right. Your next one, you should get this one, the Punisher.
Oh, black.
Definitely black. Yes.
Yes.
There he is. Your next one, Deadpool.
Deadpool's going to be black.
Yep. Red and black.
Yep.
Played by Ryan Reynolds in the movies. Couple more for you. Martian Manhunter.
Martian Manhunter is blue.
Yep. He would be blue. All right. He's green, but his costume there is blue, red and blue there. And your last one, come on, you got to get this one. Superman.
Oh, blue.
Come on, we all know that one. Blue, yes, sir. All right. You got the 7 right and 2 wrong, so I'm going to say you're the winner.
All I do is win.
Yeah, see, they cheering for you. Hands go up.
My son's going to be disappointed in the 2 I got wrong.
Oh, really?
I'm raising a comic book kid. It's great because we're both comic book fans, and he's always telling me about all the new updates and everything. And I'm going to go right as we're done this. I'm going to go in and I'm going to be like, hey, who are these characters?
Yeah. All right. So yeah. Hit him up and he'll let you know. He'll give you the whole skinny on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming on again, Craig. And it was good stuff, good info. Like I said, be safe out there. We got a lot of civil unrest going on right now. Hopefully it'll die down soon. But in the meantime, just watch your 6, as we say. We like to say in the business. Keep your head on the swivel. All right.
You do the same. Glad to be here.
You got it. I'll talk to you.
Talk to you soon.
All right, y'all. That's it for this episode of the Black and Blue Podcast. I want to thank my guests on this episode, LAPD Detective Craig Marquez, for joining me here today. I appreciate you, sir. Keep representing that Aloha state, even though you're out here in the Golden State. If you guys out there appreciate this sort of content as well, make sure you like and subscribe to the show on the Black and Blue Podcast YouTube channel or whatever podcast platform you're hearing my voice today. I'll be back next week with another interesting guest. Same black time, same black channel. But till then, y'all know what to do. Stay black and blue. I'll holler at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.